Hello, everyone. Thank you, Amber, for your overwhelming introduction. I just, as Amber said, I just joined Amber for helping her to make few of the flyers, and later on she asked me to be a speaker, and I couldn't say no to her because the way she speak and the way she asked me, it's really difficult to say no. Being a servant leader, so I will be speaking about today about serve to lead. Now, let me tell you something about me. I'm working in Dubai in one of the company where we have about 8,000 employees and about 150 managers, subordinates, managers, assistant managers. And recently, we had a discussion and all the managers were called and wanted to understand the challenges being faced by the managers now. And to the surprise, every manager was having the issues which a lot of them are having because of their personal working style or leadership style. And when they were consolidated, the major 4 points and 5 points were lack of trust between the managers and lack of trust with the workers, lack of respect now, and insubordination, absenteeism, and the other issue was retention. It was really surprising that all these managers in my company are most of them are being promoted from junior staff to the managers, and they are still having the same issues by the man, because the problem is that they've felt and they understand that this is the lead. They have to lead the people. The moment it becomes leader, I don't know, something happened in their brain and they start like doing it something in a way that, oh, I have to lead, I have to get the production, I have to do everything to please the management. But rather than doing that, I have to do is to take care of my people also. I started pondering upon after this that what is the way that we can communicate with people. Okay, being a servant leader from so many years, I was working in Nestle before. In Nestle also, I got one message from one of my manager, Paramjit, you are too close to the workers, you are too close to the subordinates, you eat with them. And I was really surprised. You know? For people who I'm working with whole day, how can I not be with them? And it was really difficult, but the manager told me, no, this is not a great way. You have to keep yourself alone. Don't be with them. But I kept on working like the same way and same way, still continuing. And I'm really having a wonderful results. See, we are Toastmasters, so what I thought of, why Toastmaster is having a wonderful time. And we have some core values on which the whole system is working without even like, I think they're all self-directed leaders. We have four core values. I know you all know, but if you want to write down, you can write down in the chat: integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And service is one thing which hit me that, oh, this is something which is required, because when we want to lead, we try to lead, but when we serve to lead, it's something totally different. And we all have seen in the past kings, past monarchs, they were working in a way that they were really serving the people. They were not like taking advantage of people, but they were really wanted to serve. That's why they were chosen. Even I felt, I don't know about the Europe, but in India, they were treated like a god because they are the people who are taking care of it. And if we go back to history, we have so many. First one is Jesus. And Jesus say to one who said, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Means you have to be a servant before you become a leader for them. Lao Tse said, the greatest leader forget himself and attends to the development of others. Just see the Toastmaster. How many leaders you find in the Toastmaster who give their ample time? Even my mentor used to call me at 2:30 in the night to help me write my speech. He was the doctor, very busy gentleman, but like in the 2:30 night, he will call me, Varunveer, come, let us do practice the speech. That's why I could learn a lot of things from him. He was not thinking about him, he was thinking about me at that time also. Chanakya, one of the we could say economist, and in India, he is known as one of the policy makers for one of the king. He said the leader should consider as good and not what pleases himself, but what pleases his subjects. That's something very meaningful. It's not about you, it is about the people you are working with. And in Toastmaster, I think we all have seen so many leaders, so many people walking the way to help others. Once we reach one level, we start working for other people. So now, how the theory came, and I started, searching it, trying to find out, and I found that there is one thing called servant leadership. When I was a small child, in our Sikh temples, I always used to see there was written Das manager. Das means servant manager. I was surprised, how can be a manager be a servant? A manager is a manager. But I could find that the all people who were there were they managing, but they were always looking for the upliftment of the people they come across. So this gentleman, Greenleaf, he put out a book, Servant as a Leader, and how he did it is because he read a book called Journey to the East by just one Journey to the East by Herman Hesse, in which it is very much clear about the story of a gentleman called Leo who have gone for a pilgrimage with a few people. And there was a gentleman called Leo who was just serving like a menial work. He was doing small chores, he was doing giving them entertainment, he was showing the way also. But he was a servant. One day he was lost and there was nobody to guide. And this total journey was stopped. Later on, after 1 year, one of the people who was with in the journey could see this gentleman in a city being the person who actually sponsored that visit, that pilgrimage. And that means his first idea was to serve. He could have been a leader at that time, but he wanted to serve the people before going further into leadership. And that's how Greenleaf made the first statement in his book. The servant leader is the servant first. He's the one who looks after for others, and he becomes a servant, then become a leader. If you see a lot of leaders in the world, they never wanted to become leaders. They became leaders because they served. And it begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve first. He wrote a book, and on there, then conscious choice brings one to aspire to lead. It's a conscious choice. He want to be lead or not, is his choice. But the first thing is lead, lead, and lead. And we have so many leaders. Can you see any of these leaders who wanted to become a leader? No, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. They just wanted to serve the people. They all wanted to serve before becoming the leaders. And they never said that we are leaders. People made them leaders. People made them leaders. So if a leader is there who want to serve, I think we must understand what are the traits he should be having. If you wish, you can write down in the chat that what can be few traits of a leader who is a servant leader. I would really appreciate if I cannot see the chat at the moment, but okay. So these are the leaders. So okay, let me start with the traits a leader should have, the servant leader. The first thing which we all know, and we learned it very fine in our Toastmaster journey, is active listening. and understand. Most of the time, we don't listen to people. We don't listen to particularly our people who we are serving, but we look always and say, we want to say something. So they should be knowing what, and they should understand what is being said and what is not being said from the gestures or from the non-verbal communication. They should be knowing. And they support their decision of the people they are working with. The second one is empathy. I think we all know this. Explanation is not required, but certainly we have to understand people, recognize their problems, respect them, give them appreciation. Without appreciation, it's very difficult to work with people. Even for small things, we appreciate. We give them respect. It doesn't mean that they are small people. I like to share something like in the morning when I go to my office, there are a few people who are just doing the cleaning of the company. Nobody says hello to them. And when I go there, I just, hello, how are you? With a respectful way I talk. And they always care for me. Whenever in the evening, they clean my car. I don't know what they do. I never thought of doing that. But I just say, I appreciate them, the work they are doing. So we should have empathy. We are senior. That doesn't mean that because we have studied well, we could study and we could become a managers. But the best thing is they couldn't get a chance. They couldn't get any time to do that. So we should actually elevate them with us. Then we have healing. We have to heal them. They have problems between themselves. They have a lot of conflicts between themselves. And they need to be addressed. Help them get along with each other. That becomes a core of the team. That core of the team is required. Awareness. He should be very much self-aware or general awareness. Is willing to meet people where they are. He should be aware of situations and people, because every worker has a different, every subordinate has a different things going in his life. If you are knowing, if you have a time, just try to find some time to talk to them. They will be really happy with you. And they will not ask you something, but they just want to be heard. They just want to have a listening. The other, persuasion. We learn this also from Toastmaster. Don't pursue, don't force them, don't coerce them to do the thing what you want to get it done. Actually, you should convince them. Seeks to convince rather than coerce them. And the major, don't take the advantage of power. That power should be used to help them, to serve them. Then they will give you back what the way you just start doing it, you'll see how they give you back. And effective in building consensus within groups. That is very important. We have groups in every company, everywhere. But how to build the consensus rather than make them fight and you take a lead. Because that will not help you. You'll be always under pressure. If the teams are building a consensus, it will be really helpful to you, and you will have a peaceful life all over the day and in the whole of your job journey. Conceptualize. They should be conceptual. They should be conceptual. They should be able to, concept the business thing they should be knowing also. These are, of course, for any manager this is required, for any leader this is required. They should know long-term goals, their vision, and how to work on those goals. They should be, like, they have dreams, and these dreams should be converted into visions, and how to work them in a targeted way, in a goal-oriented way. The smart goal is his job. Foresight. They need to have a very good, future. What is happening in future? They should have that wonderful thing in their mind that what are they doing? Understand lessons from the past. Very important. And the realities of the present, because that is what they can build on. And they understand that where they lag and how can they improve the whole system and themselves also. This is another thing. Stewardship. I think that is one thing which I always like. Committed to help and serving others. Treat them like assets, not like machines. We treat the people with them like machines also. They're assets. They are people who are building us. They are building the company. They are building the organizations. That's why we must treat them like an asset and give them respect what we expect from ourselves. And I think this is a very important point, all of 9 points. Committed to the growth of the people. The growth of the people is the growth of the company, the growth of the leader. deeply committed to the growth of the people, recognize their responsibility to nurture professional and personal growth in their employees. That is very important. I had one chance to had one of the conference in India like long ago, where I was just a manager but not an owner of the company at that time. And when we were discussing the same thing, they were saying the people are not working, they don't listen. And I asked them, what's just two questions? First question was, okay, when you started the company, what was your vehicle? We are coming on a scooter, mobike. India that time, 1987, 88, we used to have a mobike. There were no much cars. And now what is there? Now we are coming in Daewoo, we are coming in big cars now. And what is happening to the workers? They're still coming on the bicycles. They're still at the same position. Company has risen, but we have not risen their level. Where are your children studying? I asked the second question. They are studying in the best schools. And what about your employees? They were not even aware of what they're doing. I said, that's the reason that you are not so close to them. You don't understand what they are going through. They work full day, they work hard. But what do you get? That's what they get. So we have to understand their personal and professional growth as a manager, as a servant leader, we should be taking care of. And building community. This is what this certainly will help build a community, build a sense of unity and wholeness of the organization. Now, I was always thinking like, we really this system, Toastmaster is a non-profit organization. And they always say that these organizations, they will work, servant leadership works, but in the industry doesn't work. And when Ken Blanchard said that you have to reverse the traditional leadership pyramid, where leader is first, management, then your employee, and then your customers. He said, just change it reverse and reverse it, and you see the results. And lot of companies all over the world are using this now. Of course, they may not be very much open, but they are companies. I'll share with you just now. This is required. You when you are customer oriented, then employee oriented, management, and then goes the leader. You see the difference. It goes up, and if you see that is going on the shortened length, this trend goes up. You become a broadened working atmosphere. Now, what are the advantages we get? Positive work environment. We have a better teamwork and collaboration. Improved innovation, because when people are working together in a team, we have improved innovation. A lot of people come together with different brains, different creative minds. They become much, much better. Reduce turnover. Turnover means that less people go out because they're happy working with that. Accelerated learning. And future leaders developed. That is one most important, because when you go, there is somebody to take over you. So you develop future leaders who are like you, which can take the baton further. And strong culture. And I like to tell you that this is how it has helped the companies who has adopted the servant leadership at a highest level. If you see, this is another company for a company called selling, I think, coffee outlets they are having. They had a 6% of improvement in job performance, 8% in customer service, and 50% employee retention. 50% employee retention, which was something great, I think, which like people feel happy over there. Now, these are the few of the companies who are really using servant leadership. Few of the companies are based, most of them are maybe in Europe, and you all know those companies. And I know a few of them working because in Dubai, there are a few of them are present here. Like, and just see the vision of this company. The Colin Barrett, the president of the Southwest, the company which started using servant leadership. And from 2011, there were seven there were 7 planes, and it came to now 768 from the plane. And she has very clearly said that we have reversed the pyramid. At the top is the pyramid terms the priority of our employees, then customers, and then management. And the gentleman who is a co-founder, he said, the business of the people is the people. Company's definition of culture is the development, improvement, and refinement of the personality, individual identity, and personality of a given people is to be improved. This Calloway has said, and he's working. A lot of people say he brings donuts for the people working in the night shift. He helps people even on the forklifts. That's how he comes so closer to the people, and that's the customer oriented. The FedEx. The FedEx is another company. In 2016, they had a conference in Korea, and there they came with a concept called people, service, profit. And this is where they start working that this is, we should be taking care of the customer, we should give the service, and then work for profit. And this goes from people means customer, your employees, and service, the profit will automatically now. And that's, Fred Smith said, when people are placed first, they will provide the highest possible service and profits will follow. That is something really, I felt that this is required. And we all Toastmasters know all this, everything. The only thing we don't know whether we are in that position in our companies to implement the same. But what I feel is wherever I am working, wherever my area of working is there, I do my best to work in the way that they are working. So people first. Another company which is working and at TDI Industries, anybody who goes to this company, join company, he has to read the book, The Servant Leader. We have a diverse people-centered culture built on a foundation of trust. We accomplish this through a servant leadership philosophy that puts others first. Everybody who goes join company, he has to read the book and just see how much impact it has on companies. Like the SAPS companies got 10.8% global increase in the production and profits. Good to great companies 17-50%, and servant-led companies got the profit 24.2% additional profits because of the way they were serving the people. Now, this is what I have gathered from my experience by reading the books. You can go further to know about servant leadership from these books. Simon Sinek, Readers Eat Last. I love this book. The Servant as a Leader, and 7 Pillars of Servant Leadership. Most of the things which I'm speaking to you, I took from there, as well as I still continue to read it to get finer points to add on to my servant leadership. So now, how can you recognize that are you a servant leader? The first thing is, do those served grow as person? The people working under you are really growing again at the way you are? Do they, while being served, become healthier, wiser, fairer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants? And what is the effect on the least privileged in the society? Will he be benefited? Or at least, will he not be further deprived? That is really very important. So now, servant leadership, in last few years, more than 400 research papers are there. People are working, people are doing their best to implement, but there's still a lot of observation of using the servant leadership on the company basis, because people feel that they will lose the leading qualities. But this is, as far as my perspective, I feel that by being servant leadership, there's the only way, the way the leaders are today working, not only on the companies, I'm talking even on the critical level also, they need to understand that the only way forward is the servant leadership. And we all should, whatever we can do in our area, if we feel that this will help, the way I've explained, I think we will be a better society, and we will be having a better humanity, better society, and better world. Thank you very much. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello. Thank you, Paranjit sir, for your sharing about self-leadership here. I'm taking notes some of your presentation here. Like a reader should listen and understanding and should have an empathy and awareness and also persuasion, conceptualization, stewardship, and then commitment to the growth of the people. And I do believe that the reverse pyramid there is the the best structure that we can have, or we what we call it. Yeah, the structure for all those great organization. And yes, thank you for encouraging people to read the book to self to lead. And I would like, first of all, I would to call Robert Keelan. Are you ready to become my evaluator for the first?
I can do that.
Okay, yes. Before I call the evaluator of RMG. Thank you. Back to you, sir.
Oh, thank you, E.T. What a wonderful opening, great speech. And I have to say, I think all of us would agree that your energy is palpable. We could feel it. It didn't feel not you. It felt very much your natural self. I can imagine you are a very energetic human and probably a lot of fun to be around. At least that's the sense that I received. Great job with that. I also loved your connection to the audience. And not only were you connecting with the audience just in how you were engaging us, and that can be hard to do through a video screen, but your connection to Kathy added to that connection. And the reason I say that is because it's very common for speakers to worry that if they connect too much with one or a few people in the audience, that it somehow limits their connection with the rest of the audience, when in fact the opposite is true. Your connection, if it is real, even with one person in the audience, reinforces the idea that you are truly connected to your audience in general. So I appreciated that a great deal. I did have just one item of consideration for improvement, and that is to check your slides to ensure that the list descriptions match the list. Most obviously, your 10 commandments had 6 points as opposed to 10. Your 7 baby steps had 6 baby steps, and then when it came to the 7th, there were 3. So there were 10 baby steps. Now, you could have turned that into humor if you'd worked on it. But so either way, either get it right or make it humor. And it's not a big point, but it's just something to look at. My favorite moment of all, though, in your presentation was when you were talking about unknowingly trash talking the principal's video. And the reason that I love that is because it exemplified your point to make humor a surprise. So that was a beautiful surprise moment and funny. And it also illustrates one of my favorite points about storytelling, humor, making a point that lasts and stick, which is to build those moments, those points around specific moments with a lot of emotion, moments that we can feel, because it's in that feeling that we want to hear more. We understand what you're saying, we hear what we're saying, and we actually live that moment with you. So of all the pieces of your speech, that is the moment that I will carry with me, because I could feel you recognizing that you had just trash talked the principal and what that would mean to you in the future. So great job, wonderful speech. Again, great engagement, and I look forward to hearing you in the future. Cheers.
Okay, thank you, Robert, for helping me to strike it out. Yes, I was preparing that as one of my humor. The 7 baby step, the first is the first slide, and then the other 6 is on the next. And then for the 10 Commandments, it is purposely it is 9 stated there, 6 and 3. So the last is how you pay attention to my slides, to my explanation. But I saw the red signal there, and I got rotten in the end. Yes, that's my bad habit because yeah, you know that I have some technical issues in the first slides, and before I go, that's why sometimes my mind got lost, and I'm trying to be calm and confident during that kind of panic attack. Actually, I'm still panic right now. That's why I'm reaching out to Amber. I'm so sorry, Amber. And yes, here I am, a Toastmasters with all of my mistakes. And yes, Toastmasters is the best platform to make mistakes. And I'm utilizing it so much, right? Where is the place that it can give us the chance to shine in making mistakes? It's only Toastmasters. So yes, please let me call the evaluator of Marty Varela, the Paramjit. Marty Varela, are you ready?
Yes, I'm fine.
Thank you, MCET. And fellow Toastmasters, I just want you to know that I don't know Paramjit Singh, but after today's talk, I feel like I know him very well. And that's because sometimes a speaker gives a title and it's just a title. But there are other instances where the title is a way of life, and that's the case for Paramjit. He's not giving us a line or telling us a story. He is authentically sharing who he is. My observations today will be framed with good, better, and best. What was good, what could be better, and what was the best. And I want to qualify this by saying I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone else. This is just my observation and how it landed for me. First, what was good? Your technology was working for you. Your PowerPoint was beautiful. Your using your PowerPoint as a virtual background was an awesome feature. I love seeing it. I would have liked for your circle to be a little bit larger so that your hand motions were visible, but that's a small thing. I also think that the evidence that you supported your talk with, using Jesus, Lao Tzu, Shania, talking about the books and giving us references, pictures of the titles, we could see that there was a lot of substance to your message. This wasn't just you telling us something. This was you channeling content that you received before. Additionally, I think on top of your technology and your content being good, you are so comfortable. So comfortable. I felt like we're sitting in your living room and we're just chatting. And frankly, for me in the state of Washington right now, when it is very early in the morning on a Sunday, I needed that kind of casual discourse to keep me engaged. One opportunity for you in the future is when you're giving us those little anecdotes, those little stories that you added to emphasize the points, talk about it from your perspective. How did you feel in the moment when you're giving an example for one of your fellow coworkers who's embracing servant leadership who had not done that before? How did it make you feel? Was it supportive of your ideas? Was it a little bit challenging? Did you have any difficulty accepting it? Adding those stories, but giving your perspective makes you even more credible and makes us want to listen to you even more. Now, I've talked about what was good, what I proposed could be better. Let me talk to you about what was the best. This is a powerful message. Now, you use the business context, but let me tell you, Toastmasters is a business. If that's news to any of you, listen carefully. We are a business. We're in the business of making people better communicators and building their leadership skill. And what did we see today? We saw Mr. Singh being an excellent communicator and giving us an opportunity to build our leadership skills by recognizing that leadership is not about taking, but about giving. I know now, Paramjit, that in order for me to serve properly, I need to conscientiously make an effort to serve. And for that, I am very grateful. Thank you for your good tech. Thank you for your great content. Thank you so much for being able to give us a topic with lots of references. Work a little bit on those stories to insert your perspective because I want to hear from you. But keep telling us to be servant leaders and to serve to lead. Back to you, Mr. MC.
Okay, thank you, Marty Varela, for giving the on-point evaluation. If I in your spot to evaluate Paranjit, I think I don't know how to evaluate him because he is so good in his slides, in his text, and yes, the understanding of the servant leadership framework and principle is not easy for us as Toastmasters to apply in our real situation, in our real life. And somehow, me as Toastmasters, I feel like people in Toastmasters, well, I said it, you have been warned. You have a humorous speaker, humorous MC here. So yes, if my words offending you, it is on purpose. Well, not on purpose to offend you, but on purpose to make a humor of it. So yes, I saw so many people took those masters too serious, like what happened to me in the first year as newbie. My mentor said to me, Elios, come on, you are funny. You should explore more about your funny bone. You have it. You have it in you. And well, because I didn't know Dhananjaya at that time, he said it to me. I saw something in you. But this time it is, but I know what it is. What? What it is? I said to him, well, let me tell you once you join as a member. Okay, I sign up. And then he said that, Ilias, you are seriously funny, but you need to explore it more. Don't just use jokes as a template. Yes, some of us, well, again, sorry, you are just using humor in our speeches for the sake of template. So here is the humor of for ice breaking, and then the us opening, and then yes, and go on. The story goes on. People sometimes forget how we can customize humor into our story. You're just for the sake of the speech writing. And yes, you deliver humor, random humors, and random jokes. And yes, it is before we are taking a 5 minute break, and Amber will show us the time to shine, and then we can come back again like that. Yeah, like that. So we are going to take 5 minute break, and before that, please to fill in the link here, and we can chit chat and talk around during the break. If you have need to go to bio break or taking for your snack for the next session, please do so. This is your last chance because you won't get another chance to break. Yes, without Kit Kat. Yes, back to you, Amber.
Thank you, ET. So 5 minute break. We are running a little bit late on schedule, but a moment to get something to drink or just chit chat if you'd like. If anyone has insights they would like to share. Kathy is away for a coffee. Good.
Anyone else want to talk about seven leadership with Paramjit here? Or you want to talk about humor with me here? This is your last chance before we are going to move on to the next session.
You are really very engaging today. I think that was something very important, and you are actually trying to do your best to add humor to the way it was. It was really good. Only thing I would say that if you could have added few, like every time people talk about how to write a humorous speech, right? But how to add humor, how to create humor is a challenge for everyone, including me. Of course, I do a lot of humorous speeches, but I think how to create humor is the biggest problem. That's why if you see in humorous speech contests, there are very few takers. If you talk about international speech, but if all the people who have won in last 4 years, the world champion of public speaking, they had humor built in it any at different intervals. So I don't. That other point, very good point you talk about is that about humor. Either you have a full humorous speech or humorous speech with the objective. That is very important, and that's what all these world champion of public speaking, they used humor. And your slides were really good. That you have a very colorful choice of a wonderful color choice, colorful combination. And the only thing you could have done in that Zoom is you could have made slides in such a way that you remain in one corner rather than shuffling from other to one side. That you can plan your slide next time. But it was under really good, wonderful. I know you've been so. You're coming a lot of time to leadership speak, right? I think every meeting you generally come, and I feel that you're a. I listened to you first time as a speaker because there you just come as a visitor. You have the ability to engage people with your wonderful voice and tone voice. Your, oh my goodness, solid voice. You have a solid voice with a lot of vocal variety. I think that is really very important. That's what I can say. And other thing what I saw was your structure was very good. I wrote for you few points, and I think they are all very good. You're engaging very much engaging. And the way you made the slides, I'm not able to do that. I envy you for that. Thank you. I only say that's really great for you. Yeah, I really love that your slides.
Okay, thank you, Paranjip sir, for the feedback. And yes, obviously, I want to be the best in my slide here. Yes, but all of us know that I got some tech issues. So I was thinking I'm going to use my webcam so I get a better graphics on my face here. You can see all of my acne here, of course, if I use it there. It's better for the graphics. But yes, I think I don't want to expose my acne more than my face, my round face
Uh,
here.
I couldn't stop showing my white beard. Why you're worried about your acne?
We should be proud of it. Like that's part of us. And we can make fun of it. And some people are avoiding it for the sake of they don't want to shame of themselves. And yes, the best and the easiest joke is self-deprecating. That's one of my first go-to jokes
If
and approach
if you
in
listen,
VR.
if you listen to my humorous speech of my icebreaker, first icebreaker of my life, I told that my beard is not white. Actually, it is black. It is because of my wife's painting skills. She was having one day a white extra paint, and she painted me that. So this is not white because it's white. It is my wife's painting skills, and that's something great. You can make a humor like that. No issue. Make humor of you rather than making of others.
Yes. Okay. I will go to the third speaker here, and I want to confirm that Sandra Savitz, are you ready before I introduce
Yes.
you? Okay,
Yes,
here it is. Sandra Savitz, DTM, joined Toastmasters 5 years ago using her hand, well, hand, had to build a marketing and branding program. Be heard. She used her name pad to publish and market her cookbook with love. With her wealth of experience as a certified project manager for Adobe, Macromedia, and other software companies for 16 years. Sandra will offer practical insights on how to break down your goals into manageable projects using pathways with purpose. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a purposeful speaker here that we are going to help us to understand more about pathways. Well, after this session, maybe when I heard pathways, I will always remember about TTM Sandra. I hope so. So, TTM Sandra, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Do you remember way back when you started charting Toastmasters, maybe not 35 years ago, maybe just a few years ago. Why did you join? Was there a reason? Did you want to learn how to be a good Toastmaster? Or did you have a real life reason? Friend of mine, Katie, she was a dental hygienist in a practice for 26 years. She was kind of, well, okay with her job, but she felt like she wasn't being taken advantage of all of her skills and her skill sets and her knowledge. She was told that maybe she should gain some confidence, and someone had told her about Toastmasters. Well, she decided to do it a little bit differently and not just join Toastmasters for confidence, but she wanted to go in and propose to her boss a need that she saw at her in place of employment. She saw that they needed a full-time trainer that associated medical health and dental health together and trained people how to clean teeth appropriately. She wanted to be proactive. She wanted to ask her boss for the meeting. She wanted to go in with a proposal. She went out and interviewed 6 or 8 different dental offices in the area, came back, asked for the meeting, and guess what? Not only did she become a Toastmasters member, but she used it for a reason, and she got 6 job offers. 2 from her current employer, 4 from other people she interviewed to get more information on the curriculum that she wanted to put together. She's now touring the country. I never see her. She's all over the country on stage teaching other people how to do her training program. I have been working with people all over the world who have been working on different things that they want to accomplish. They don't want to become a good speaker about a Toastmaster speech or talk about how they finally got their DTM. They want to do something with their projects. They want to maybe put together a book or a cookbook, or put together a graphic web design, a podcast. I have one gal up in Canada who wanted to create a neurodiversity high school. She found that a lot of the students did not learn as well with lectures and textbooks as they did with getting their hands on it and working in it. So she put together a whole plan, and I'm going to talk about the path she used to doing that. I have a couple of women I'm working with that had to escape from Ukraine, who are now over in Spain, and they are helping other women from Ukraine go into new countries and establish their businesses in those new countries, showing them how the language, where everybody is, who to talk to, how the norms are. They're paying it forward. One gal back in Minnesota, where I was born and raised, wanted to build a community garden in an area that's all high rise. A lot of people living there, but there was no fresh produce. So they put together a plan, she did, to build a community garden. She had to make a proposal to the city, to the landlord. She had to get a maintenance person. She had to get equipment, seeds, set up a schedule, the whole 9 yards. She used Pathways to help her get all the projects done that she needed to get that community garden up and running. We also have another person in Canada as well who is working on taking remnants from fabric stores or fabric manufacturers, and she's a fashion designer. She has designed patterns and is sewing clothing, and all the proceeds go back into the business so that women coming out of homelessness can get a nice business suit shirt to wear for a job interview. And I'm going to go through a few more of these. Podcasting, that is a new one right now. A lot of people are using Pathways to do podcasting, and I'm going to show you how we do all that. And the new thing now being a life coach. How do you take your idea? How do you pinpoint how you are the specialist on that platform, bring it to your market, advertise, get your sales brochure, get your website, get up there and give a sample speech, put up a podcast, put up a YouTube, all of get your business up and running. You can do it with Pathways. So whether you joined because you want to be a good communicator, You want to get a new idea. You want to entertain with comedy. You want to persuade. You've got a cause, or you want to get donations. You want to motivate a team or lead a big organization. There is a path in Pathways that you can use to do that. Now, I'm going to focus on the 6 remaining paths that are going forward into the new learning management system, but all 11 of these apply. So whether that be in presentation mastery, visionary communications, engaging humor, persuasive influence, motivating in others, and leading dynamic teams, there is a way that you can achieve everything. Have speeches that are interesting to give in your practice on us. That's why you're paying dues, is for us to give you feedback and get it to where you're ready to give it to your public. Now, here's where I go a little bit different than a lot of people. I turn everything upside down because I like to look at the bottom. I like to look at the end. Where am I going? Kind of like a GPS. You know where you are, but do you know where you're going? Well, I'm going to talk about the 11 paths, but mainly the 6 in the me, we, and lead group. Now, the me means you can do it all by yourself. You don't have to have a team. You can. You will want a mentor, that's for sure. But you can do these paths all by yourselves. The top 2 are the top 2 paths in Toastmasters worldwide. Presentation mastery, which the final project is an 18 to 22 minute speech. Visionary communications is the second most popular, and it happens to be my favorite, so I'm going to pick on that one today. That one ends up with a 5 to 7 minute speech, but you put together a plan, and I'm a planner. Engaging humor, you notice I've done 10 paths, I'm not doing 11. Okay, these are ones where you're going to work with a team to do something that benefits a group of people. Persuasive influence is a project where you do with a committee, you do a project, like maybe a community garden or a workshop with your club members. Same for effective coaching and innovative planning. Motivational strategies, this would be really good for doing a marathon charity run. Leadership development and dynamic leadership for those of you who are taking on leadership roles at work or in your club. By the way, if you are a club officer, dynamic leadership can be a great one for you to use to not only be an officer for the year, but to write your succession plan so that the officer who would nominate themselves for the next year is more willing to take on the role because you've got it documented for them. They don't have to start all over again. Okay, so let's take now. In Pathways, which is Toastmasters education program, and I assume everyone here is familiar with it, there are 5 levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. For each of the 11 paths, I have made a deck of cards. So there are 11 decks of cards, and Amber will be sharing with you later the URL to get all of these resource files. What you can do with these cards are pull out all the white cards. Those are the ones that are required for your path. So you just pull those out and set them aside. Say, I got to do these to get this path done. Then you go into your level 3 and you pick out 2 or more. And by the way, I did say or more because you can do more than 2. You can do as many as you want. You can do them as many times as you want. This is your practice field. Your Toastmasters meetings are where you can practice over and over, get the feedback, get it right, fine tune it so that you feel confident, cool, calm, collected when you go to give it to your boss, to the community, to the city council, what have you. Pick out 1 or more of your level 4 and 1 or more of your level 5. Set them aside, you may use them later. Now, I'm going to pick on one path just for time's sake, and that's going to be visionary communication. In visionary communication, as in all of the paths, there are 5 levels. Each one gets more and more complicated. That's why I start at the end. I want to know what I'm signing up for before I sign on the dotted line. So I'm going to look at what my level project is going to be. Now, out of this path, there are 42 projects in that path. 17 of them are required to do. The rest are up to you. You can do all 17, you can do all 42. That is 100% up to you and how much you want to get out of it. Develop your vision is the dotted line thing that you're looking at with visionary communications. You're going to put together a plan. What a great way to start planning things out. Figure out what you're going to do. Who's your target audience? What's your intention? How are you going to talk to them? Where are you going to find them? What kind of stories are you going to incorporate? Are you going to incorporate humor? Look at all the different things that are going to lead you towards success. Then you're also going to be dealing with things like communicating change, because over a plan, things change. They always do. So we need to know how to communicate it, especially when you're working with a team. Develop a communication plan, because this is very important to get out your message. And then you're going to also reflect on your path. Then the rest here in level 1, level 2, level 3 are either required or electives. But I don't want you to focus on this slide. I want you to look at the possibilities we're going to talk about on how you can use these different projects in a fun way. And I think a lot of hesitancy with people when they look at pathways is how ambiguous the projects say the assignment is. That's on purpose. It's for you to customize. And if you're unsure if it's good enough for your VP of education to approve it, talk it over with them first before you take it on. So let's talk about some of these ones. Let's start with the basics. And I'm so glad that Robert is coming on next and giving a speech with purpose, because that is, well, okay, you've decided you're going to, let's pick out a project today. Let's say you want to publish a cookbook. Or no, let's do a podcast. Shall we, Amber? Let's do a podcast. Why do you want to do a podcast? Well, you have people that you would like to talk to, and you know that your friends would like to hear them, and possibly you could even make some passive income that way. So you're going to talk about, you're going to do a podcast, and why? What is your subject matter? What is it? What are you the expert on? And why is it important to give that podcast, build this podcast now? In other words, you want to spread the wealth of your knowledge or the knowledge of others. Or if you're in a cookbook, you've got recipes you want to share, and you've been having so many people ask for them, you thought, well, let's put them in a nice book, and people will have something they can share with others as well. Give your icebreaker, but unless it's your very first one, don't talk about yourself. Sorry, I don't want to know about your cats or your grandchildren. I want to know what you're going to do in this Toastmasters Club and how I can help you. How can I give you the best advice or feedback or direction or assistance that will help you succeed? One of the things that everyone I've talked to has mentioned is that in Toastmasters, there's such a huge yes. Very few times will you hear the word no. People are very helpful. If you have somebody in your club who's an expert in marketing, an expert in finance, an expert in legal, an expert in book publishing, ask them, hey, I'd like your advice. Take advice from each other. And here's one more thing that I've come up with recently that I wish I had thought of years ago. Imagine how smart we'd be if after every single Toastmasters meeting, we learned 3 new topics because we had 3 speakers that night talking about what they knew instead of about Toastmasters or this or that. Why not share the wealth in your speeches? That's why you joined in the first place. Is because you want to be able to talk to your community. You want to be able to talk to your faith-based organization. You want to be able to talk to your leaders and managers, to your HR specialists, whomever it is you interact with in social settings as well. You're going to practice that in our club. Practice it on us, and we are going to walk out so smart at the end of every single meeting. I love the idea. Let's pass it on. So with your icebreaker, talk about your idea and ask for help. Start to work on why you are giving a speech and being able to provide your credentials, because part of your speech is an introduction. You should not need to say, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of every speech. Today, I'm going to talk about blah, 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 blah. And your person introducing you shouldn't be reading your bio. They should be reading why you are speaking, why you're the expert, why this topic is important, and please sit forward and pay attention. So you want to write out those 100 words to give to the person introducing you so they can pump you up before you even take the stage, and you don't have to use up your 7-minute speech to introduce yourself or pat yourself on the back. And this is in the handouts as well, is this sheet on how to write an intro. Your evaluation and feedback can be used in so many ways. And I like getting it as soon as possible. And all of these basic ones that are in level 1 are foundational, but you're going to carry them through every single speech you give in all of your Toastmaster speeches. So when you learn to write a speech with purpose, you're going to learn the structure of a good speech, where things go. Make sure you ask for something in every speech, by the way. If you didn't ask, you wasted an opportunity. Make sure that you are getting back feedback on your idea. And if people are saying, you know, that just doesn't resonate with me, you find out why. You get the feedback and start incorporating it so that in a way you have a guidance committee throughout your entire project, your entire goal, so that when you get to the end, you know you've got something solid. Also, learning how to evaluate others is very important. Just saying good speech, you had good vocal tone, doesn't really help me. I want to know what connected with you, especially if you're brand new in Toastmasters, because you haven't been jaded yet with Toastmasters eyes and ears. You've got those fresh set. Don't laugh so hard, Amber. You've got that fresh set that gives you feedback that we got yesterday in a meeting. A guy brand new to Toastmasters evaluated a regional semifinalist and said, I don't get it. And the speaker said, you know, you're right. It wasn't working for me either. But nobody else had the guts to say that. But the new guy didn't know that he shouldn't say that. So I like the new guy. I like the new, fresh set of eyes and ears. Learn how to give an evaluation. For me, it's, can I repeat this speech, as was mentioned earlier? Can I repeat this speech tomorrow? What was the main message? What did they ask me to do, and am I going to do it? That's how I evaluate. I also have another technique, which is 3 columns. This is what I learned. This is what I'm going to steal, and this is what I'm going to suggest. So you can use whatever works for you, but giving feedback to a speaker that is unique is very important. Also, depending on your project, if you're going to be doing a podcast, you probably don't need to work much on your body language. Although I have noticed when I sit up straight, I do talk slower and enunciate better than when I slouch and just kind of relax, you know, talking to my mom. My vocal variety, I am from Minnesota. I am still working on it 35 years later, but I have a Minnesota Midwest voice. But I'm working on it, and vocal variety is very important, especially your pauses. Your pauses give your audience a chance to digest what you've said. Or as a good friend of mine says, pause and punch, or punch and pause. So use your pause wisely depending on where you want the silence and the thoughts to happen. And get as much feedback, take it in all the time. Don't just brush it off. Okay, so now let's look about how do you develop your plan, your vision. Here's some cheater things. First of all, not a cheater, but the best thing you'll ever do is get a mentor. And I don't mean a Toastmasters mentor. If you're going to go into podcasting, find somebody who's in podcasting and talk to them, kind of like a big brother or sister, and get advice from them. Use them as a sounding board, no pun intended, to bounce your ideas back and forth. Get some guidance on what lessons they've learned. By the way, write down the lessons you learn along the way as well. You'll appreciate it later. The next time you go back to do something like that, you go, now, what did I do wrong last time? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that wasn't it. Okay, write it down. Use your research and present project. It's an elective in level 3, but use it, especially if you've got quotes or facts and figures that you need to cite. If you're going to say something pretty emphatic in your speech, you need to be able to cite your source so that it doesn't sound like you're just making this stuff up. But research and present is a great way to do research on your project. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can do the old-fashioned way, and I mean old-fashioned, Encyclopedia Britannica. You can Google. You can also go on Amazon and look at a book on a how-to, like how to do a installation of artwork. How do you compose the layout and how do you put together your catalog and things like that. Don't make up your own list. Look at what the experts have written. You don't have to buy the book. You've got the table of contents. That's all you need. That's your list of things to do. Get about 6 or 10 of those, compile them together, put together your own to-do list from that. Don't have to invest a dime. You can also do the same thing by looking at online courses like from Coursera or Domestika. You don't have to take the course unless you want to or if it's free, but you can also look at their curriculum and get their list of to-dos. Also look at what your audience is looking for. Have a target audience in mind. Have that person in your sights all the time when you're thinking and working on your project, because that's who you're there to serve. But also look at who's competing for those eyeballs. And also what I call companions. I explained this to Amber yesterday. If you go in the grocery store and you go get some waffle mix for breakfast, where are you going to find the syrup? Next to the waffle mix. That's a companion. If I listen to podcasts on self-help, I'm probably going to listen to other podcasts on self-help. If I listen to podcasts on old-time radio shows, I'm probably going to have a whole grouping, or like for me, books, a genre that I like. So find the genre that your customer is going to be enjoying in your field as well. Your communication style. I implore each and every single one of you to use the level 2 completely different than you've ever done it before. Your communication style and leadership style are not your Myers-Briggs results. I want to know, well, if I'm going to be asking for money or if I'm going to be asking people to sign up time, what's the right voice I need to use? What are the words? What are the associations? What is my new lexicon for talking to my target audience? That's my communication style. Not who I am today. That doesn't matter. You wouldn't have joined Toastmasters if you wanted to stay the same. What's your leadership style? Not how you lead today, but if I'm going to be leading this new team, how am I going to best be a good manager? When I left high tech and went into the culinary field, I went from a complete change in who I managed, from salaried people who traveled around the world to dishwashers who came in with their own thermos of hot coffee every day. Totally different environment, different motivation. I needed to know who I was going to be working with and how I could best communicate with them and work together with them. So use your communication and leadership style for how you want to, how you should be doing it going forward and what you're going to do to get there. And then use your mentor as a guidance, part of your guidance committee, but also get other people in your club or outside of your club, maybe at work, to help you. Get all the help you can get. Okay, now, one of the other things, I don't know if we got this copied. If not, we're going to give you my business card. I have in the resources file a 20 or a 12-month calendar for you to plug in. Starting in June, I want you to look at when you want to finish your project, your entire path. Is it going to be a year from now, a year and a half from now? And you're going to start planning backwards as to when, if you have to get this thing done by, well, I'm going to go back to my trade show world in high tech. Macworld was always in the summer, or no, it was in January up at Moscone Center in San Francisco. It was always in January. We could not move that. That was a yearly conference that was held worldwide in San Francisco for people who were on the Apple Macintosh platform. So every company that had software that ran on that computer had to be ready on that day with their release, their press releases, their marketing literature, their sales pitches, everything. We would start with that date in mind and we'd work ourselves backwards. It's kind of like moving day. Let's say that next weekend you're moving to a new home. Are you going to pick up boxes and cardboard boxes and wooden crates and other kinds of packing materials the day before you move? I hope you've got them packed already. That's what I mean by packing your schedule appropriately. Timing things out as to here's the end date and then here's how everything leads up to it. So here, there's an Excel spreadsheet in your resources. You can start to plan this. Now, I do this because I work best under pressure. I put the pro in procrastinator. And so I got to the point where I went out and bought a calendar, one of those printed ones with a picture on the top and the numbers on the bottom. I would put 2 envelopes on each month. And in each envelope, I would take one of those project cards from those deck of cards you're going to get. And I would pick out which ones I was going to do that month. And I'd put them in that months on that calendar. And I'd work with my VP of education to get it scheduled and on the books to give at a club. VPEs love it when you do this, by the way. Then I knew I had due dates. People were counting on me. I was counting on getting it done. I was being held accountable. And by the way, if you tell a friend that you're going to get something done by a certain day, they're going to nudge you, aren't they? They're going to keep at you and going, how's it going? You getting ready? Can I help? So you'll get some good peer pressure with that. So work a calendar backwards. Now, let's look at your whole vision plan if you're going to be doing a large project. Know what your vision is. Know how to connect with storytelling, which we're going to get next. But storytelling to me is so important because it gives you permission to step outside of yourself into a fictitious world, see it all happening, and then bring it back in and absorb what you need to learn from it. So it's not a personal attack. It's a very calm way of getting across a message with a purpose. Very important in speeches today. Develop a communication plan. How, when you go out with your podcast, are you going to let the world know, hey, come find me? What's your logo going to look like? By the way, you can use your creating effective visual aids for all your branding, your logo, your colors, your fonts, your look and feel, your website design. So that doesn't mean just a flip chart. This can be real life application like you would use at work. You also have the ability to go in, whoops, sorry, that beeping, there we go. Okay. Hopefully we won't have anybody come in while I go to the next one. There we go. Then you're gonna start talking about, okay, here I am, come find me. What is your awareness plan? What is your social media plan? How are you gonna manage this whole project? And then it starts with that calendar I showed you a couple slides back. Change is gonna happen, be prepared for it. Have a social media plan. Do you need a social media plan, or all do you need is Facebook or email? Figure out what you need to communicate with your customers. Also, connections through networking. I'm writing a novel, and it happens to be dealing with two main topics: stuttering and being a Korean prisoner, a North Korean prisoner of war. I've come in contact with two authors who have written fabulous novels, and I've already started interviewing them. When I'm ready to start hitting the button to print my novel, I'm going to release the interviews with these authors. They're going to also link to my website, and all of a sudden I'm going to have all of their readers be exposed to me. What a wonderful way to spread your word is through the use of strategic alliances. And prepare for an interview. Have an elevator pitch. Be able to go up in a social situation, different every single time, and be able to tell people what you can do for them. Not what they can do for you, what you can do for them. Hey, I have a story about a young boy that stuttered. I'd like to come talk to your speech pathologists about how a teenager deals with this. And I'd like to get their input. I'd be invited tomorrow. So get ready for that. And then when you get ready to finish up with a good way. Moderate a panel discussion is a fabulous tool I saw used in a club in Ireland a couple years back. The new club officer, president, brought all the VPs on the podium. She gave an introduction, she was the moderator, and then the panelists, all the VPs, what their plans were for the coming year. So it wasn't just her dictating what the club was going to do. It was an interactive conversation. And so I did this recently with a group of people who had published books. And we got answers for people who were interested in writing a memoir, cookbook, a self-help book, what have you, a photography collection. And we got advice from all these different authors. I didn't have to know all the answers. I just needed to know the questions. And then I facilitated the panel. You can also use your, you review your vision, your, the last project in your path to make sure that you have been going along, you've been updating your plan, you've got it up to date, you wrote down what worked, what didn't work. And when you do that, reflect on your path, share with your club what worked and didn't work so that you can help them and they don't have to go through the same thing you went through. How about if you were to take those boring wedding speeches and instead deliver a social speech at the end of your path completion, say thank you to the people who helped you in your club. You can use your deliver social speeches as a way to thank people who have given you aid in networking, communications, marketing, sales, legal, finance, what have you. Thank and acknowledge them. It's a great way. We also use that in one of our clubs to introduce new members to the other members. So we, instead of introducing a famous movie star, we introduce our new famous member. Recap, document everything, reflect on your path, and just finish whether you're going to be doing your path for getting your communication skills under wraps, learn to do a whole plan, entertain, persuade, or lead. You can do your path, but do it efficiently. Let me give you few more tips. We've got about 10 minutes left. If you're a member in only one club and you only meet once a month, the best chance you're going to have is giving one speech a month. So do the math. Figure out how many clubs you need to be a member of, and if they're going to be of different specialties. If there's one that's going to specialize in writing versus one that's going to be specializing in podcasting. You may want to belong to both. You also look at how frequently the meetings are going to be. If you only meet once a month, not too many speeches. If you meet with one that has a meeting every week, that's different, and you're going to have more opportunities. There's one club over in Dublin where I first gave this presentation to. You cannot get on their agenda for 2.5 months because people are prepared that far in advance. They meet every other week. They've got a large club. It's successful. So you have to look at how often. And remember how many speech minimum and max you can do. You can also combine speeches. Work with your VPE to combine things in a project that you could be doing. You could be doing Q&A, moderate a panel discussion, and an online meeting, all like Amber is doing with this 3-prong event here. You can also give speeches outside of Toastmasters. And if you have a VPE who wants to hear them or evaluate them, Zoom makes it easy to get a recording. Just get the recording, give it to them, or invite someone from your club to come along with you to take notes. If the project is too big, break it down. Look at your level 5. That's a big one. Break it down into smaller pieces, make it manageable, and then you get to eat more chocolate bars when you finish each part of the project. So that's how I look at it. I reward myself, and you should too. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself a flower, go for a walk around the block, eat a Milky Way bar, take another walk. But make sure that you reward yourself for doing a good job and sticking to it. And lastly, is it speaking about? If your club is going to have limited speaking gigs because everybody is excited to get something real done with their pathways, you're going to be fighting over who gets to speak. We have one club that at the end of every meeting, it's already filled up for the next 2 meetings. And that's here in the United States. And people are talking about things worth talking about. And make sure that we learn, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning. I think people have one other thing in Toastmasters, and that is their for knowledge. So make sure that you use these insider tips. Your icebreaker is not about you, it's about your plan. Ask for help. Repeat as many as you need, as often as you need. Do them in your order. Did you know that? You do not need to do all the levels in order or all the projects in order. Do them in the order that makes sense for you, and do as many as you want. And you can schedule to finish with success. And there we go. Right on time.
You still had 10 minutes.
Yes.
Well, then we
We
can
still
have some
have 10
questions.
minutes. Okay. I think we can use the 10 minutes for Q&A, right? Sandra?
Great, I would love.
Okay. Sure. Let me begin it with my question. So from the last 6 pathways here, which one is your favorite? And you would like to recommend to all of us here to at least try to take it as our next pathway.
Say again, I'm sorry.
From the 6 pathways currently left, which one that you would like to recommend to people to try for their next pathways after they complete their pathways now?
I think I've been pretty clear about my leaning towards the visionary communications. And by the way, even if you have done it already, you can do it again. You own that path. You don't have to pay another US $20 to repeat a path. You can do it again and again and again. Once it's yours, it's yours. And unless all you're doing is counting up badges on your sleeves, it doesn't matter. This is for your own personal growth. So many of the projects are the same as far as the electives go between the 6 paths. I also like the presentation mastery because it's really a good foundational path for new Toastmasters. And I like dynamic leadership. And in fact, that's great not only for club officers, but anyone considering starting their own professionally paid speaking business or life coach. So there are a lot of good ones. Engaging humor, just shtick. It's just, I like to play fun with words, but I don't like to force myself to be funny. I'm working on taking a couple of the paths and combining it into one that can focus on storytelling. Because storytelling makes such a huge difference. It's like a message within a message. And it's the one you remember. And I hope I don't offend anyone here, but when I used to go to church every Sunday and listen to my Southern Baptist preacher with his head down, reading from the Old Testament and saying, "Thou shalt not," I didn't listen to him very much. But when the missionary came to town and he's told stories, and we took back like, and then this happened, and then that. And it was like, I couldn't wait to tell all my friends about it. So stories stick in our brains and they make such a huge impact. I was on stage with Matt Kinsey a couple years ago, and he had been speaking and he had some time for Q&A. And he says, "Ask me anything, just don't ask me anything Toastmasters related." And I said, "Well, it's kind of, sort of." I said, "We're joining Toastmasters because we want to be better communicators. As better communicators, how can we best use our new skills for the good?" And he said, "By learning to tell a good story." So Robert, I'm setting you up here, either for success or failure, but storytelling, the first speech I heard in Toastmasters 35 years ago, I still remember practically every word. And it was a story. And I've never heard it since. I've told it hundreds of times. That's the power of a story, a good story that makes you go, yeah, yeah. Okay, let me teach you 4 of my secrets though. Number 1, if your audience doesn't like you, they're not going to listen to you. And people love stories. Number 2, and they like to feel connected within 8 seconds. Otherwise, you lose them. Second thing is what you're all doing right now. I was coming off of a stage down in Australia, and I thought I was darn good, feeling quite proud of myself. And I walked off the stage, and the gal was coming up after me. I said, "Well, how do you think I did?" Expecting her to pat me on the back so I didn't have to hurt my own arm. She goes, "Well, if you don't know, you weren't listening." And I said, "What?" She says, "If you weren't watching them nodding their heads, smiling, laughing, all that, you weren't listening. You can tell if your audience is following along with you." That's why I love it when people have their videos on. It gives me such a good reaction. So I can see, is there confusion? Did I say something wrong? Especially when I talk in various countries with different, thank you, Parveen, for turning on your video. Didn't mean to shame you. But I like seeing people's reactions so that I can see if I'm going too fast, too slow. If people don't like what you say, they stare at their desk. They don't want to make eye contact with you. If they like what you're saying, they're going to smile and their head. We just do it. We're bobbleheads. So yeah. Third tip is if you find yourself not talking low enough, especially us women from the Midwest, talk to your toes. Put your script on the floor. Sit back and talk to the floor, because when you talk to your toes, you can't talk through your nose. That was one of the other tricks I heard. And the last one is you've got 8 seconds. 8 seconds to get them to like you. So have your introducer do the heavy lifting for you. Don't do it yourself. You want to be the good guy when you start speaking. How many of
Okay.
you have an open path right now that you have not finished and you've been kind of, I don't know what I'm going to do with this? Nobody?
Yes.
A few, okay.
Yeah. So sorry, I am not switching on my video. Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So right now I am pursuing two paths. One is team collaboration and one is strategic relationship. Both of the pathways are very time taking, and they are also not part of the new learning management system. So my question out here is like I am stuck in level 4. I have completed some of the electives from level 5 also, but I am stuck in level 4 because those are very time taking, like creating a podcast, uh, having a blog, or creating a PR strategy, or motivating a team, executing a project. These are some really time taking tasks. So, what is your advice so that I don't feel stressed while doing these projects?
Right. Well, remember that in podcasting, blogs, websites, and so forth, you don't have to push them out to the public. They can be just for you privately. So you can practice. For example, I recently gave away a series of cooking lessons for a Toastmasters raffle drawing at a conference. I've never done cooking lessons over the internet, so I've been practicing on them. I don't have to release them. I just have to do them and record them. And then I can play them back, see how I did, what I would do differently, and things like that. So you can do them for, yourself. Second of all, you probably have a topic of expertise in your industry for your job. You could be giving short little safety talks, advice on management, tips and tricks, where to find information type of things. You don't have to necessarily release, or you can proactively go to your boss later and say, hey, I've started to build a library. In fact, one of the gals I'm working with in California is a realtor, and she wanted to do a YouTube channel. So we played around a little bit and she started recording, and then she got 2 other people involved, and now it's part of her job description, and she got a bonus, and she's putting out YouTube videos to get more real estate agents to sign with their brokerage firm because they're the experts in that area. And it's just by taking her product knowledge that she already has. Practice using it like you would at work, recording yourself. You can do it on your own Zoom computer, just you and your dog or cat or grandchild. I was joking there. And just get it done for the practice. And that's what Toastmasters is about, is not perfection out of the gate, but practice to get there.
Yeah, thank you. That is a very practical advice.
And then on those big ones, they are big ones. Break them down into smaller pieces. And in fact, you might even find that you can break them down and tuck them into another elective, like creating your visual aids, which you would need for your podcast to have a logo. You get 2 in 1.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think that's
Okay.
it for time, Amber, or do we have
Yes.
time for?
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Pramates, and thank you all for the question. And we can continue the Q&A session on the Hangout after the meeting for more networking and also questions. So yes, please stay tuned until the end because we never know. Maybe someone will go as the mystery speaker again, or mystery title, or even Santa Claus is coming to town. So, ladies and gentlemen, of course, the next speaker is not Santa Claus. the next speaker is someone who is very familiar for all of us here today because he just evaluated me as the first speaker. And yes, the next speaker is Robert Kieran. Robert Kieran was an active Toastmasters from 2005 through 2015 in Oregon, USA, and competed in the finals of the 2007 World Champion of Public Speaking in Phoenix. He has have won table topics and numerous district level contests. Wow, he is the right person to evaluate me, of course. Thank you. And he moved to Florence last year and joined TAF this year. In 2009, Robert designed a professional development program to help professionals and organizations identify and use their stories to establish greater authenticity and connection. So, with the title of this combing, finding and shaping the stories of your life, Robert Kieran. Robert Kieran, it's combing, finding us and shaping the story of your life. The stage, well, it's not mine, it's yours.
Thank you, E.T. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here, and it's time to get your toes wet. So if you would please go to the beach. I want you to imagine standing in the sand. You can have your shoes on or off. I don't care. The beach could be sunny and calm. It could be cloudy and stormy. Whatever beach feeds your soul, but you are standing looking at the ocean. The beach is entirely yours. There's nobody else on it. As you look to your left, you see your footprints, because that's the way you came from. And as you reach down and grab a little bit of the sand and look at it in your palm, you notice that the grains of sand are maybe different colors, but largely indistinguishable from one another. The size and shape are the same. These grains of sand represent all of the thousands, millions of moments in your life that you'll probably never be able to reconstruct, to recall with clarity. Our brains actually do store our memories, our moments in little 2.5-second segments, but most of them we'll never find again. But as you look back along the beach, you'll also find the beach finds, the treasures, the sea glass and the shells and the sea stars and all of the wonderful little treasures that are next to your footprints. These represent the moments that you do remember, the moments that are crystal clear. My job today is to help you find those moments and shape them so that you can engage an audience with them. This is a method that can be used on the fly, and ultimately, it can help you accomplish your goals in Toastmasters and life. So that's my purpose today. And the journey that I'm going to take you through includes first exploring how memories are formed, what I call the magic of moments. What is it that creates these treasures in the sand? I'm going to share with you my method for finding them, which I call beachcombing. We will briefly discuss a crucial discovery I had about these moments and memories and meaning. And then we'll discuss how to shape these stories for greatest impact. And then I'm going to finish with a twist that we'll get to when we get to. So let's start with how memories are formed. I'm going to give you a memory from a long, long time ago. I was 5 years old, and it was the very first day of first grade. And I lived in a house out in the rural areas of Oregon. And the door to the front yard, which led down to the road, had a big glass pane on it. And I stood there with my hands on the window, watching as the bus came up to the bottom of the driveway and opened the door for me. And I stood there and it waited. And I stood there some more and it waited. And then the bus door closed and it went on up the road. I couldn't get myself to open up the door. Now, I wouldn't know until years later, but I suffered from pretty severe social anxiety, both as a kid and as an adult. And this was my first memory that sort of reinforced that. Now, I don't know if it was actually that moment that was reinforcing social anxiety or the memory from about a half an hour later when I was escorted down the hall to my classroom while all of the other kids in the elementary school were lined up outside their doors waiting to go in, all looking right at me, the one guy who showed up late to first grade. That may have caused the social anxiety, but for whatever reason, those are two of my very earliest memories. But the question is, why is this memory or any other clear memory clear? Why do I have that memory still today, years and years and years later, too many years to count? Well, there's been lots of research done on this. And the research all comes to the same conclusion. And it's all about emotion. The idea is that when we have strong emotions, and they could be positive emotions, it could be anger, it could be fear, could be joy, it could be any emotion. The emotions open up our minds, they open up our sense receptors so that we gather more intel in that moment. And our mind makes more connections about that moment to cement it in our mind. That's how every strong memory is made. It's how it's kept. And as a result of that, every strong memory you have, no matter how odd or strange or seemingly inexplicable it may be, every one of those has value because there were strong emotions associated in the moment. So a great question at this point might be, well, what about memories that aren't even mine? What about memories that came from a book? Memories from a story that somebody shared? Memories from a movie? What about those memories? Well, it's the same situation. It's the same thing. It's about emotions capturing us and opening up the mind. And stories, well told, utilize this. So a well told story will engage the listener in the emotion so that the brain will open up, the mind will open up, and the listener or reader or viewer will experience it as if it is their own. One of my favorite book moments from Dragon Song by Anne McCaffrey is a moment when the protagonist mentally is hiding in a cave, hiding from danger outside, and there's this clutch of fire lizard eggs that hatch while she's in the cave. These are little mini dragons. And she's desperately trying to keep all of them, they're flying around newly hatched, and to keep them in the cage so that they wouldn't go out into danger. I remember that experience. I read the book 40 years ago, but I remember that moment as if it happened to me 2 days ago, because it captured my attention, my emotion, and every good story does the same. So whether or not the emotions are from a real life experience or they've come to us through some other mechanism, our memories of them may still sit on top of the sands of time along our path. So that's the magic of moments. Memories, strong memories, are about singular moments in time where emotion is strong, and great stories are built around them. So let's talk about how to go find them. How do I find the moments from our life? As I said, this is a process that I call beachcombing. And as much as I would love to say it was built out of some generosity or an epiphany, this process was generated out of self-pity and jealousy on my part. Because back in 2007, when I was making my way toward the World Championship of Public Speaking, I was feeling really sorry for myself. And that might seem strange, but I was comparing myself to another member of Toastmasters who happened to be in our district, Dr. Randy Harvey. Now, if any of you have followed the World Championship of Public Speaking, Randy gave a spectacular speech in 2004 to win the World Championship. The speech was called Fat Dad, and I remember the speech from start to finish today. Well, Randy, more than just being a great world champion speaker, was also like your favorite Southern uncle. He's this guy that always seems to have a story to tell, a yarn to spin, as we say in English. And he had a personal philosophy that you should never let the truth get in the way of a good story, which made his stories all the more wonderful. I was feeling sorry for myself because in my perception of Randy, I felt like he's a person that has this deep well of stories to share. He's just lived a richer life, and I don't. I didn't have that. At least that's what I thought. That even past the World Championship and through to the next year, when I was competing in table topics, I was still feeling that same self-pity. But prior to the table topics contest, I decided to do something about it. So I got myself a notebook, and on the first page at the very top, I wrote pre-kindergarten. And I wrote down any memory I could think of, anything that was vivid prior to kindergarten. And I only had a couple things that I could think of, but I wrote them down. The next page, kindergarten. The page after that, first grade. And I went through my school years detailing the memories that I could pull up. By the time I got to high school, there were so many different memories that I could remember that didn't work anymore. And I started changing the prompt. So the prompt, instead of being time-based, was athletics, music, pets, the outdoors, and the prompts just grew from there and could be anything: success, fear, love, whatever it is. Each of these prompts would call forth different treasures from my beach. So I used that in preparation for the table topics contest, but after the contest, I realized how valuable this was because I was still socially anxious. I struggled in networking situations, especially networking that involved a lot of just casual conversation, because I just had never been really good at connecting to people in that way. Chatter has never been my thing. Gossip has never been my thing. But I realized that if I built a skill around this model, beachcombing, that I could walk into any room, and no matter what people were talking about, I could find something to share. I could find a story of my own. So I always felt armed with the tools I needed to participate, to engage in the room in an easy way. So I'd like you to try this with me. So I'm going to give you a prompt, and the prompt could be anything. I'm going to give you a prompt. And what I want you to do for beachcombing, first thing you have to do is clear your mind of all the presuppositions, all the ideas that you think I want to hear. You think you need to come up with something that's valuable, important, that's thematic, whatever. You've got to clear your mind so that you can allow your brain to feed you, to well up the prompts that are truly from your own mind, from your own history, that relate to the prompt itself. So that's the hardest part. It's a very simple process, but it's not easy because clearing the mind is not an easy thing. But I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to think about, or yes, I want you to put in the chat just a couple words about the image, that moment that wells up, that treasure that's on the beach that's related to it. So the prompt I'm going to give you is river. River. And I'm going to give you a couple seconds. Yes, please type the prompt. Oh, I'm sorry. I will type the prompt. Let me do that. The word is river. We've got cruise. I love it. Pitching a tent. Perfect. Skating on a river. Grandpa, I love it. These are wonderful. My own memory that comes in this moment, I actually have several related to river that I always think I'm going to share, but in this case today, a different one came up, and it was fly fishing on the Deschutes River in Oregon. The sun was going down over the hills across the river. There was a large weed bed between the bank where I was at and clear water, but there were fish, clearly large trout feeding at the other edge of the weeds. And I was a fairly new fisherman, so getting a fly all the way over there to land gently and to drift across them without being pulled on by the line was at the very extent of my capabilities as a fisherman at that time. I spent about 20 minutes trying to get the cast right before I finally landed one. Just on the other side of the bed with just enough line out in front of it so that it wouldn't drag, and bam, fish took it. It wasn't the largest fish I'd ever caught, but it was one of the most wonderful fishing experiences I've had because I tested myself. But that image, that whole scene, is embedded in my memory. So these are absolutely wonderful memories that you're bringing up. I love that. There are some of these, like the chill atmosphere and fresh. One of the things that I want to point out with beachcombing is we really want to get to a moment, a specific moment in time that you're remembering. Because the process of beachcombing is finding those times and then figuring out why they're important to you and what to do with them. And that takes us to the next point. So that's beachcombing. So I'm going to tell you another story related to beachcombing and the magic of moments. I had one moment. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. It is one of the formative stories of my life. But on December 23rd, 1986, at 1:30 in the morning, I woke up from a dream. And the reason I remember that it was that time on that day is because I had been driving down the road at about 60 miles an hour when I fell asleep. So waking up, now doing 70, on the side of the road with a tree in front of me was a pretty poignant moment for me. And I pulled us back out into the road, and I was in a Volkswagen van. I named her Rusty. She was my best friend. But unfortunately, Rusty didn't dance very well. We tried. We were dancing back and forth on that road. On the other side of the road was a cliff and a river about 15 meters down. And as much as we tried dancing back and forth, we kept getting closer and closer to that until the moment when all I could say was, please no. And the universe came back saying yes. And Rusty stumbled, and we cartwheeled off the cliff down into the river below. The reason I share this story is not for all of that drama, but for what came after. For about 3 years after that experience, I didn't drive. And it's not because I was afraid. There was some fear there, but that wasn't the reason that I didn't drive. The reason was because upon reflecting, which I did a lot of, on that whole experience, the choices that I made, driving when I knew I shouldn't have, staying out later than I should have, trying to go over the mountains when I shouldn't have, the choices that I made and the outcome proved that I was unworthy to be behind the wheel of a vehicle. In fact, I questioned my worth as a human during those 3 years. So for 3 years, I didn't drive because I believed the meaning of that event was telling me that I was unworthy. Now, 3 years later, I'm now a burden to all my friends and family and my new girlfriend who became my wife. And the shame of that forced me to reflect again on that experience. And upon that second reflection, I realized that I could reframe this entirely. And instead of feeling unworthy, I should probably feel blessed to still be alive and to honor Rusty, my van, for her sacrifice, which kept me alive. I needed to do something with that. I needed to make something of my life. The reason for all of this whole story and these two different perceptions of meaning related to the same event is to say something that many of you may not want to hear, but I'm going to share it anyway. That from my life experience, the meaning associated with events is only the meaning that we give them. The experiences in our lives do not have innate meaning. They don't have innate purpose. They only have meaning when we give them meaning. And we can choose whatever meaning works for us. We have all experienced failure and fear and defeat and abuse. And we have the ability to frame each of those experiences however it works for you. So if you have an experience like mine that you have allowed to hold you down or hold you back or label you as unworthy, know that you have the right and the ability to reframe the meaning of that event into something that works for you, that moves you forward. So what do we do with these? How do we shape stories for success? Well, the first is to recognize what's happening when the memories are developed. These memories that we're going to build the stories around are developed by bringing in all the sensory data, all that sensory information, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, all of that is part of the memory. So if you want to shape a great story, use the senses. Let people know what you're seeing, what you're feeling. You're standing on the beach, talking about standing on the beach, talk about the sand under the feet, right? Talk about what you're seeing, whether it's stormy and cloudy or smooth and glassy. Utilize the senses to establish a place, right? Those are going to be the anchors for your stories. And then there's a whole process, a whole story shape, but ultimately it's about managing tension. If we're talking about the magic of moments related to story, there are two moments. There is the obstacle, which is that moment that keeps us from moving forward, that we have to overcome in order to move forward. If you think about Star Wars has two fabulous moments, right? It has the moment when Luke Skywalker is standing over his uncle's farm after his aunt and uncle had just been killed by the Empire, and his life is done. He has no idea what to do next. And then at the end, I apologize for any spoilers here, but it is 45 years old. So At the end, when the Death Star blows up, that's a great moment. Both of those moments are embedded in people's mind because of the vision there and the emotion around them. It's just beautifully done. So when you're designing a story, think about the obstacle and the tension and emotion that creates, and then how you're going to work through the process of releasing that tension at the end with the other moment, the transformational moment. You've got the obstacle moment, the transformational moment. So that's the shape of a story. However, there's a caveat here. In real life, we don't always have the ability to tell a full-fledged story. In Toastmasters, you do. In Toastmasters, you can tell a story in its entirety. In much of life, we don't have that opportunity. For example, in a networking environment, nobody wants to hear your 3 or 4 or 5 minute story, no matter how well you tell it, because it's commanding their time, which they're not expecting in that environment. So what do we do instead? There are 2 ways you can approach it. One is to give a teaser. It's one of my favorites. Only tell part of the story and force them to ask you to finish it. Once they've asked you to finish it, you can take as long as you want, but don't tell the full story all out without asking for it, or without prompting them to ask for it. And the second is a micro story. And what's a micro story? A micro story is a verbal version of an image, a story, a great single frame Calvin and Hobbes comic. Brilliant storytelling in one picture. That's a micro story. In terms of telling a micro story verbally, one of my favorite moments, and it's apocryphal, it's not real, but one of my favorite stories is the 6-word story supposedly told many, many years ago by, I think it was Hemingway. I could be wrong. But the story, the apocryphal story, is that he was sitting around a table and somebody was talking about how stories have to have a certain amount of length. And he said, I could tell you a great story in 6 words. And then he took bets on whether or not they could actually do that. And the story he told was this: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. And he won the bet, right? And you could interpret that a number of ways, but however you interpret it, there's a poignancy in whatever comes from that. Micro stories are telling the essence of your story without telling the entire narrative. It's a challenge, something to work on. It's beyond our scope today, but it can be done. So shaping the stories for success is very much about understanding how to manage the tension and building those stories around those moments. The moments are the seed for your story. So far, we've discussed how memories rise to the top of your beach, your sands of time, how to find them through the process of beachcombing, your role in assigning them meaning, your role and only your role, and how to shape them for success. But how does all of this relate to our theme, begin with the end in mind? How does it? Well, for that, I need you to go back to your beach. So hopefully everybody is now standing back on your beach, facing the ocean. We've talked about the sands of time and the treasures that you've found. Now, I want you to look that way. There are no footprints because you haven't been there yet. And you might think, well, there's nothing there because I don't have memories of the future yet, but you do. If you have family coming to share summer vacation with you, you have visions of wrapping one of them in your arms when you see them again for the first time. If you have babies coming, grandchildren coming, new nieces or nephews that are going to be born into the family, you have a vision of holding that child in your arms for the first time. We have future memories. We just don't call them that. The way this can help you is by listening to my final prompt. My final prompt for you is this. Imagine that the plan that you have, the goal that you've established for your life related to Toastmasters, has come off so well you couldn't have imagined the great things that came from it. And now you are feeling your pride well up through your body. Where are you? Who are you talking to? For me, I tend to be in the moment, right? I tend to be in that moment when I realize I have finally achieved that goal I set for myself, that I tossed down the beach and have been walking toward for so long. In fact, this is just me talking to you now. I spent the last 15 years walking toward a particular goal that seems to be sitting at my feet right now. That goal was to take this knowledge and this lesson and to share it with an international audience. So after 15 years of thinking about this, thanks to you for being here, for Amber for inviting me, I could reach down and grab this treasure that has been 10 years, or 15 years, excuse me, it's 2009, 15 years out in front of me. I want to thank you for being a part of that. And I want you to take your vision, whatever that is, that moment in the future when you know you have succeeded in your path with your end in mind, take that end and the moment that surrounds it and toss it down there in your beach so that as you walk in that direction, you can constantly see it. Because that story, that moment, that future memory, that's the fuel that will keep you motivated to succeed. Thank you again for being a part of this experience for me, and I wish you every success as you walk down your own beach. Cheers.
Thank you, Robert, for sharing your speech, coming, finding and shaping the stories of your life. And yes, this is definitely a great session for us to, well, we have a question. Should we have a Q&A session, Amber? Or we move on?
Let's have a couple of questions. Yes.
Okay, so yes, Maitri, you can ask your question. Go on, shoot it.
Hi. Sorry, firstly, I'm not able to turn on my camera. And I just had one question, is that I'm a new Toastmaster and I aspire to get to district level for table topics. Apart from making some narrative or memory related notes, what are the other 3 things that I can do to get me there? That's all for me.
Excuse me. Plenty of practice, right? Plenty of practice. When I was in high school a long time ago, I was a competitive speaker. So I didn't join Toastmasters to learn how to speak. I joined Toastmasters to, as we say in English, sharpen the saw, to improve my skills. But one of the things that we did back in high school that I think is a hugely valuable tip is to take random topics, random prompts, and within 30 seconds, convert that prompt into an outline. You don't even have to speak it, but to convert any topic you're given into an outline. We used to do that over and over. We'd stand up in front of the room, the teacher would give us a prompt, and we had to give her back an outline for a speech. That's a skill that takes practice. So I'd recommend flashcards or just a friend that you could practice that with. And the next thing is a challenging part with beachcombing that we didn't really get to is figuring out the theme or the meaning that you're going to apply to that moment in time. So for example, I gave you the prompt of river. I came up with this moment where I was crossing a weed bed to find a fish. For me, the potential themes are overcoming an obstacle, or setting yourself up for success. I took a long time before I actually cast it until I was entirely ready. So figuring out what theme you're going to utilize with that moment, it's not always obvious, and it takes a little work. So thinking about how you would do that, again, it's something it has to be practiced.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see Preeti has asked, is there a way to maintain a story file? Well, I'm embarrassed to say at one point when I moved, I lost that initial notebook that I was writing in over almost 20 years ago now. But there is no reason, you can't start a new one. And I do believe in the value of writing with your hand. Writing with the hand does activate more of the brain. So it's a different process than typing. I type almost everything now, but I don't like myself when I'm doing it because there is so much to be gained by writing. Any other? Yulia. Good to see you. Oh, I'm sorry, Yulia. Yulia, I'm sorry, even though you're unmuted, we're not hearing you. Could you type your question?
Yes, we cannot hear you, Yulia. Maybe you can change your audio
Oh,
Do you hear
or
me?
type.
I hear you
Yes,
now.
now
We hear you
again.
now. Yep.
Good. Okay. Yes, it's a pleasure to see you, and it's a pleasure to hear this really powerful speech. And I was thinking to it's makes me think about a lot of things in my life, and also about these speeches that I'm going to make in them in Toastmasters.
Excellent.
Because I'm new in Toastmasters, I'm new in the community, so I'm really curious about where my path will bring me in the end. And I would like to say thank you also to Sandra, because those tips was exactly what I wish to get after this meeting. And I'm so happy to have it, and to thank you for sharing your experience and your advices, your tips. It's really fantastic. I'm immediately going to plan my pathway, like to try to understand where I can finish it. And it's really also a good opportunity for me to see once again how I can use instrument where I use so well in my job, in my life in general. Because it's another thing which sometimes makes me blocked. And because I'm marketer as well, so in my daily life I use all these instruments like planning, like all these charts, how to make projects, etc. But in my life it's also useful to do it, and it's nice to remember to myself this kind of thing. So thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity once again. Thank you, Amber. And that's
Okay.
it, what I want to say.
Thank you, Yulia. And for Kriti and the other question, we will ask the Q&A after the session end, and we can stay for the hangout. You can ask your question there if our speaker here still there. Okay, I think we are going to move to the evaluation session. Evaluation is always the session that we are looking for, especially if you are Toastmasters. Like me, I joined Toastmasters because of evaluation. I was so hyped of myself. I was so confident in myself that I bragging around. I am the best speaker in the world. And then I enter Toastmasters. Suddenly I feel like I am the best speaker in my world. Yes, it's only imagination, like SpongeBob said. Yes, SpongeBob is one of my best favorite speaker. Well, just kidding. So we are going to start our into the evaluation session by Dan Odero. Let me introduce him. Dan Omondi Odero is a life coaching and consultancy, taking people to the next level, multi-level marketing professional, hotelier, Toastmasters, and competent communicator, also insurance sales advisor. And yes, today and we had a session. It is about where is it? A cruise of diamonds. So yes, Dan Odero will evaluate Sandra Sevitz. Are you ready, Dan? The screen is yours.
I am ready. Thank you. I don't know if I'm competent to give feedback to Sandra, but I remember what she said, that she likes people who don't have jaded. So we just give clear feedback. So here goes. I mean, one of the things about the pathways, you brought in a view that was, first of all, what are the benefits of pathways and what is the end of it? What have people benefited from? That put out very clearly. And you give examples after examples of people who have benefited from it. That came out very clearly. I know when Pathways was first introduced, there was a lot of resistance. And some people to date think that Pathways is very vague, but you answered those questions that people had. It's as if I think you studied what they were saying and looked at it and gave us the solutions. I mean, what are the things why is it vague? And because for us to have so we're able to put in what we want to get out of it. So this was very clear done. The slides were very comprehensive, brilliantly done, comprehensive. You guys can go through very well. I like that and how you went through each part, explaining exactly different parts and breaking it down into things that we could actually give fantastic tips, because I see some people who join Toastmasters and begin a path, and then the subscription time ends, they don't renew their membership, and they drop out and they forget about it, and it's a year, 2 years pass and they never go back to it. But when you start with, this is what I want to go to, this end, very good practical ways we can mentor people on. Also a good way to also market what are the benefits of Toastmasters out there to corporates. Why should we sponsor some people there? So great tips were given out there. I mean, all extremely well done. You've done a fantastic job with it. I remember a story where I met a priest. This is a story. I met a priest who was speaking many different languages, and 6 or 7 languages. And I asked him, I asked him, Father, how do you know how to speak many languages? He says, when you love a people, it's easy to learn from them. So when you love something, the learning comes to you much easier. Then you are able to explain. And I see how you love it and how you talked about the things you're passionate about. You end up saying, yeah, this is the next path I should take is visual. So the way you explained it shows the love and that helped us to gain it. Things that I would consider I'm not sure whether what you could do different, but one of the things probably was it was a slideshow, and with technology, sometimes maybe when we had to look at you separately and it was a long speech and look at you separately, maybe like what Paramjit had done, where you embed yourself into the presentation, maybe would then, so we have you there, have more connection with you as you're explaining the path. That could be one of the things you do. Um, uh, and that's different. And but then at the end, you also ended very well with the pointers, that things that we, and a nice summary was also good. And all in all, I think it was a great. I learned a lot, and I thank you for the effort, the work you've put into it. It's something we needed, and I think Toastmasters should use it more. This stories and how we can use it, how you do a calendar, gives us focus, gets us the most out of it. So that Toastmasters is not just a place we go there to give speeches, which are speeches just for them or finish your path, but for our careers, for things we can do that can help us out there. Very appropriate and very well done with that. Thank you, Sandra. I will connect with you definitely, but thank you for sharing this with us, and thank you for giving us that view there, starting on the bottom up. Back to you, E.T.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Yes, like what you said in your session, what we can learn from those masters and how we can contribute to the society. And now I'm going to call Sandra Cephas, DTM, to affiliate Robert Killen. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. I typically dread giving evaluation. And because I know I have to pay attention. And it seems like these speeches go on and on and on. And yet, Robert, I wish you had gone on for another 2 hours. You have such a natural way about you and talking and information that I think all of us got a lot of from. I instantly put my feet down in the sand and started wiggling my toes. By the way, I would suggest people used to have people try that, because even for us shy ones that don't like to, breathe in and breathe out so everybody can watch you, nobody's going to see if you really wiggle your toes or not, but it feels good. And I started drawing pictures and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't have enough paper because I'm going to draw out this entire speech. But I just instantly, the whole beach theme put me into, I think, a place that everybody has had a tranquil experience, or fresh air, or the spray in the face, the squishing underneath the toes, the crunching of the shells, all that kind of stuff. And I could see myself gathering up all those lovely little shells like you have the agates behind you. You have a very visual way of speaking, of talking, of using words. And I really liked how I had never thought about even bad emotions being what stick a memory to me. I thought we wanted to get rid of those, and I didn't realize those are the ones that are stuck on the hardest. And we need some extra help to get rid of them. I like the idea of having a prompt book. I've heard this before, but not in the way that you did it. By having, maybe segments of your life or categories of your life that you are able to quickly know which section to write in. Because for me, they bleed across all of them. But having, before first grade, well, I don't remember anything because I got dumped on my head by a horse. But anyways, after that, and then having us think of a memory, and I could just watch everybody's shoulders relax when you started having them think about going to a river. You chose a prompt that didn't get us tense. So you kept us in a really good, open and receptive mode. And, our words, our language, our pauses, our humor, they all do control even how fast we breathe as an audience. I like that you use the river because it's something we all have in common. Pretty much all of us have been to the water, lake, or have seen it on TV or what have you. And it was something that natural, kind of like what I said before, they have to like you to listen to you. Well, they have to be like you as well. So having a common, as you mentioned, the five senses, smell being one of the most powerful ones, by the way, that bring people together. Like if you say, well, remember what it smells like just before the rain starts? Everybody all of a sudden takes so smell in, you know, or when the steps creaked as you ran up the stairs at grandma's house, we all heard that. You heard that little squeaky wood piece. So senses are very powerful. Shared memories. One of the things that I learned and you did not do, and I loved it, is how many of you have ever? That is such a passive phrase. It involves nobody. But you use a lot more. Do you? When did? You know, you were more forward action rather than backwards. I was trying to think of, you know, the stories that we share and why we joined Toastmasters and all these different memories that you brought up for me. I actually painted a picture of myself at the end, kind of like you and your Rusty, and Scooby-Doo mobile. So it was very evocative. I really like how you pointed out to me how emotions do open our receptors. I think that's why stories are so effective. They don't make us put up a guard. They let us bring our guard down, take in your message, walk away safely on a nice beach that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, DTM Sandra, for giving such a nice relation to all our speaker here, Robert Killen. And now we are reaching to the end of the session. So we are going to give some appreciation to our speakers here, to our evaluators, to our active participants, and also the Zoom masters. So here it is, Sandra Sevitz, DM. Thank you, DM Sandra. Okay, here's your certificate. And TM Robert, TM Paramjit, thank you for giving us great session. Oh, and yes, thank you for myself to be the MC and the mystery speaker, and Marty as the evaluator, and then Dan as the evaluator, and also once again DTM Sandra as the evaluator. So yes, everybody, give a high five to the friend to the left screen of yourself. High five. And then again, both of high five to the friend on the right side. Last but not least, give me high five. Woo! Thank you. And yes, begin with the end in mind. There is an end in that word. So we are reaching to the end of this session. And once again, we are thank you for all of those who are here supporting us behind the scene, in front of the scene, and no scene at all. If you are not showing for this session, you are also supporting us because you will watch the recording, you will share the news, and you are expecting to get more of the session after this. So, no spoiler. For those who haven't got to watch this session, please do watch the recording. We are here to support you as Toastmasters all around the world. This is sponsored by Toastmasters International. We are reaching 1 century years Imagine how many speakers are made, how many readers are made. And yes, Toastmasters has that kind of slogan. I have my own also. Toastmasters made me. And yes, I am a proud Toastmasters, aren't you? If you are a proud Toastmasters, unmute yourself and say, Toastmasters made me together with me. If you're not proud, it's okay. It is what it is. Once again, 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
3, 2, 1.
Toastmasters made me.
Toastmasters make me what I am.
Again. Come on. All of us together. 3, 2, 1.
Toastmasters makes me what I am.
Yeah, thank you all, thank you Toastmasters. And yes, like what I have promised before, if you want to stay to hang out until the end, you can go on and the recording will go off because we know